Rain has eased, lots of standing water around. My colleague Greg Russ still catching his breath from an absolutely wild TCR race. Thoroughly enjoyed watching that from the sidelines, Rusty, as I enjoyed calling Fanatec GT World Challenge yesterday. It was wild, it was exciting, it was adventurous, it had everything you want from a GT Enduro, and it only went for 60 minutes and we've got another 60 more today.
In both cases, I don't have the grey matter to process it all, Richard. There was lots of action. That's the net result for our Stan Sport viewers. This was the move that I think underlines how much this driver, Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim, has come on in season 2022. Roland Dane was hard in the mouth. No emotion from Shane van Gisbergen, who knows what this driver, Prince Jeffrey, has got. It was a great move, maximum commitment. Yasser Shahin recovered to get into pit lane, and then this happened. A rare thing for Garth Tander, but it just shows how slippery that corner is. We saw action there in Super Cheap Auto TCR before. Yasser looked at the screen and said, "Is that me?" wondering if it was a replay, when in fact, no, it was Garth at the time.
Fraser Ross and Liam Talbot had a pretty solid day in the G-Technic Audi, but a trip across the grass there didn't help Fraser Ross's cause at the end of that race, and he was gobbled up by Garth Tander, who managed to drag that car back to second position. This would ultimately bring out the safety car and cause an end to yesterday's opening races. Heavy rain pelted down at Sandown. It's been a theme of the weekend, and ultimately the second victory of the season went the way of 888 with Johor Motor Racing, and a fantastic performance from Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim. It was purple rain for the Prince here at Sandown yesterday. This is how it works in GT World Challenge Australia. Multiple classes, as is the case in GT racing around the world. One Pro and one Am in the outright class. There's an Am class as well, which was won yesterday by Ross Polakis. Brilliant drive, fourth outright, and won his class. Two races, of course, Rusty. And the thing to note about this race is that the driver that finished yesterday starts today. So at the front, it's all the pros in the cars.
And the likes of Prince Jeffrey will bring the car home, Yasser Shahin as well. And we've also got the GT4 cars with a couple of good drivers at the wheel to pay attention to in this race. A race within the race. The likes of Sam Brabham and Declan Fraser, who'll be partnering up with none other than Craig Lowndes at the Mountain in a Super Cheap Auto wildcard entry.
So the sixth race of the season, round 3 of the championship, the Sprint Series. We're going Enduro racing next at the Bend with GT World Challenge Australia. Here's how they line up. Ibrahim and Van Gisbergen off the front row. Mercedes v Audi, as it's been in GT racing in this part of the world all year. Tony Bates and David Reynolds. Dave starts car 24. Liam Talbot and Fraser Ross. Higgin and Stokel go from the third row alongside their teammate Matt Stupas. Ross Polakis from 7th, and that's the GT4 battle. Side by side, Griffith and Declan Fraser alongside Chris Batsios and Sam Brabham in the Harold's Racing GT4. They had a really good fight yesterday. Just two Mercs in the field, but a really entertaining little battle. Here's Shane van Gisbergen in conditions that are mail order for the Flying Kiwi. Thumbs up for SVG. And he starts this one with Garth Tander alongside. I spoke to GT before this race. He said, we were not wet in yesterday's car setup. It was still a dry weather car. I asked him, have you changed it for today? He grinned and said, oh yes, we've gone full wet in car number 1.
And the reason for the thumbs up? Those two guys have been endurance teammates and had success together. Garth Tander versus Shane van Gisbergen here at Sandown. Wet conditions, we're underway. Fanatec GT World Challenge. Tander will lead. Gets ahead of the Merc and the Audi, but it's wild on the front straight. Fraser Ross, look at this. Oh, whoa. Garth senses it. Garth senses it, I think.
It never ceased to be amazed at the level of car control that professional racing car drivers have. Somehow Shane van Gisbergen brought that back from the brink of turning around in a straight line.
Level of awareness at 200 plus kilometres an hour from these drivers, phenomenal. And it's not the first time this weekend that this has happened. Garth Walden said to me this morning, yesterday, late in the race, in that heavy downpour, he said, my thing just seriously, aquaplane, turned hard left, almost hit Shane on the main straight here at Sandown.
And Garth isn't looking to the inside here at turn 6. He's just getting out of the spray so he can pick where the apex is. So vastly experienced drivers. Look who's popped up to third. That's triple Australian Drivers Champion Paul Stokel. Hugely experienced guy. doesn't rank at the moment within the current pros like a Van Gisbergen and Tander, but he's a really good guy to have behind the wheel right now.
And I think he's got some horsepower at the hotel we've been staying at too. Private parking, Mr. Paul Stokel.
Really?
Yes.
How did you not get that?
Trust? Not even close. Not even close.
Fraser Ross under pressure from David Reynolds. These cars sit so close to the ground, even in wet conditions. And when there's standing water, they just aquaplane so easily, despite the massive width of the tyres that they run and the aerodynamic downforce. And that was the moment for Shane, offline on the run into turn 1. Incredible catch. Looking forward to seeing that again. I don't think Shane will be. Tander next, Stokel third, up 2 spots. Trent Harrison's behind the wheel of the KTM. He's sharing with David Crampton. They're in their own invitational class. That's the GT2 car, but he's up 4 spots, up to 6th position, going along really nicely at the moment.
David Reynolds down 2 spots there and just kind of tiptoeing up to speed, if you will, in these conditions. Now, the experience, the collective experience, I mean, it's so difficult to see, which is, that sends my colleague Richard Crail hands in the air saying, how do they do it? And these drivers yesterday, they were at the wheel at the conclusion of race 1 yesterday. That's the difference. The AM drivers, those that are paired as such, will finish this race. We'll bring it home after our compulsory pit stop. But those experienced drivers, they were concerned yesterday, Richard, about when we ultimately call time on that race, given the amount of standing water we had around the track here at Sandown.
Let's go and unpick that run into turn 1. So Tander just moves across to cover a little bit from Van Gisbergen, who's in that big Mercedes AMG, and there's the car, left and right, left and right. Let's have a listen.
You're riding there with a driver who has world-leading car control in just about any kind of machine. That shows you how slippery the conditions are here at Sandown. And in that little trench, I think, as the Harold's entry goes around, so does the Sheargold Walden entry too.
And that was almost a repeat of what happened at the end of the TCR race. So a lot of standing water in the run into the final complex, and those cars just aquaplaned. And that car is going nowhere. It's Garth Walden behind the wheel.
Safety car on standby.
And safety car has been called.
Car boards and flags, safety car boards and flags, safety car, come onto the circuit, please.
And it shows you the conditions. I mean, Garth Walden's one of the more experienced guys out there. He's raced everything and raced everything for a long time. To be caught out like that shows you just how difficult it is.
Safety car, the leader is car 888, will be the next car to you. The incident's at turn 11, the gravel.
Meanwhile, the GT4 entries of Sam Brabham and Declan Fraser, with a bit going on, have been able to get to position 7 and 8 outright. So
they could be the car to have in these conditions, Rusty. Less power. They sit a lot higher, so they're at less risk of aquaplaning. With the world's biggest upset.
Sam said to me when he walked into the track here yesterday, he looked skyward and said, oh, this is just like home in England. So the weather, exactly where it used to be.
There are the 2 GT4 cars, so Sam Brabham in front of Declan Fraser, the Harold's Racing team that won the class yesterday. They had a win in both the AM class and GT4s. Pretty successful day. That team run by Valenti Rosso Racing with Chris Papadopoulos, Rusty, who was Kimi Raikkonen's engineer in Formula 1 for a time at what was the Lotus team, now Alpine, and Josh Hunt, the former racer, who's turned his hand to team ownership, and those two forming a really good partnership. Cool to see Mel Price down in that stable helping out this weekend as well.
She's kind of re-enthused around motor racing, I think, isn't she, with some activity around karts and all sorts. So it's great.
Hyundai Excel.
Great to see her doing that.
So the recovery team, once again, provided this weekend by Pyack, Phillip Island Auto Racing Club. They're used to these conditions down yonder, so they'll go to work to get the Sheargold car out as we watch Garth Tander and Shane Van Gisbergen trying to keep whatever residual heat they can into their early pit zeros.
Look ladies, warp speed to make it faster. Reynolds, warp speed on the console. Look ladies,
That sounded like Shane communicating back to 888 Race Engineering. Hard to discern what they were saying.
Yeah, we got small bits of hail here.
Yeah, we're reporting hail, and it looks pretty average out the window. And the problem, Rusty, when they're behind the safety car, they're not
Really
moving
bad,
that off
really
the
bad where
line.
we are right now. Approach to 11.
And these are the kind of messages that they know will filter back, you know, from the team to race control. So this is helpful in lots of ways. And we have safety car on circuit, recovery crews as well. So we're there.
Yeah, copy, mate. Looks like this band's going to last a bit as well.
Slow down is the message from officials, just while they continue to
Yeah, mate. So they've just dragged that car out now.
get Garth Walden's car out.
So there is a mandatory pit stop in GT racing. It's a 10-minute window. So it opens just at 1 minute past 2 local time, so 16 minutes from now. And that's when the mandatory pit stop has to be served. And because it's a timed race, whether
really, really impressive. So got to feel good coming into today.
It's much worse than what it was yesterday, so it's going to be really tricky out there. So just got to really play smart about it and try to do the best I can.
And watching that start with Shane and that massive slide that he had along the main straight, what went through your mind during that point?
My heart just dropped. I couldn't say anything. Yeah, that few seconds my heart just dropped. I think it was nerve-wracking, but no, Shane is behind the wheel, so I trust him.
And also your season's going really well in the GT World Challenge Asia. Equal lead in the series coming into the last round next weekend. So how good is getting this extra seat time heading into that?
Definitely is good. Different track, different situation, but it's just getting that seat time is really important, and hopefully get some confidence from today's race and then can bring it forward for the next one.
Thank you and have a good one out there.
Thank you.
It's amazing who you find in the pit lane. I was walking down the pit lane and I've just bumped into Dale Wood. He looks very warm and cosy in this jacket. So what brings you to beautiful Sandown?
Well, I'm quite happy to be standing here in this spot at the moment and not battling that out there. But I've got my flanny on and look like a bit of a cowboy out here. But no, it's good checking it all out. And I can actually come along with my boy Jacko and we can check it out without me being a grumpy race car driver.
Oh, it's good to see you here. So you'll be off to Winton testing this week, maybe?
I am off to do some laps around Winton on Tuesday, so that'll be good. Andre's in fine form at the moment, so I need to make sure I'm in fine form.
Perfect, mate. I'll see you there.
I'll race you.
I'll race you. One of the fittest guys you'll meet too in the paddock. Nice to have him here. Trackside lights are out on the Hyundai safety car. It's peeled in. We're set to go racing again. You're catching your breath, computing it all. Are you okay, Richard Crail?
Yes.
I'm looking out for you.
I'm just trying to work out the pit stop scenarios and how they're going to play out and how long they run these pro drivers in the car at the pointy end before they pop the AMs in for the final stint in really difficult conditions. So away we go again. Before that safety car, SVG had built a considerable margin over Garth Tander. So he did tell me before this race they wound a full wet setup in Carnival 1, the Audi R8 LMS Ultra from the Ben Motorsport Park and Audi Customer Sport Racing. But either way, the Merc was considerably quicker in these early stages. And Garth was saying, and we were talking about it in the broadcast yesterday as well, that the Merc is a very good wet weather package. It's much more torquey than the V10 powered Audi R8. So it produces its power down lower and it's got more bottom end grunt, more than raw horsepower and high revs like the Audi R8, which makes it better in these conditions. And Garth was saying, if you go back and watch
it's gone
road, so even Shane's dropping it wide and, Garth, hang on to it. He just catches that
David
Audi.
Reynolds.
Reynolds does the same, but this time, let's go. They can't race in this, surely.
No, they'll pull this, surely.
Harrison there in the KTM's going to sneak through. It's so wet here at Sandown.
Roland doesn't look happy, I think, and so we'll be in touch with Motorsport Australia Race Control for you. Back aboard with Garth Tander.
I mean, it just doesn't matter what car's better in the wet or not when it's this wet, is it? Because
Tony Bates.
they're all hanging on. That's Troy Russell. He's talking to the boss of the Audi Sport Australia team.
Tony sharing that car, of course, with David Reynolds. So Michael Caruso's about to join us in commentary here, so it'll be interesting to get his real-world perspective on. It looks so bad there. Replay
this is
shows you
replay.
David Reynolds. Look at it. There is some talk that the rain is starting to ease up again, Richard. So Michael joins us now.
Mate, you're an absolute passenger here. Look at him. Not through trying. That's literally what it was like in our race.
Should they stop this? What do you think?
At least bring a safety car out.
This is Van Gisbergen, so he had the moment first.
I mean, if guys like this are hanging on, how do you feel for the AMs? You know what I mean? Like, they've got to... Common sense has got to prevail in these situations, you would like to hope.
Garth, we spoke to him on our Stan Sport coverage yesterday. Wasn't backwards in coming forward about how bad the conditions were at the end of yesterday's race. That was a reaction from down at 888 Race Engineering, and they've just gone safety car. So we
Leading
have
car
gone
888
safety car.
coming to you now.
You just like to wonder sometimes how they come to the decisions, that's all.
I think the track conditions, mate. I think the track conditions.
You can see here on the front straight the standing water, so... Yeah, the standing water is where the problems start, because once you hit it, you're a passenger, and particularly we saw yesterday in these cars with how low they are, the water that they actually can disperse. You know, a puddle like that is...
Yeah, mate, there are a few big moments behind you. A couple of cars spun out.
Teams communicating the information, so we're back under the control of the Hyundai safety car with Van Gisbergen leading Tanda Ross and the mighty little KTM up to 4th place, Trent Harrison behind the wheel. It's running in the Invitational class this weekend as Liam Talbot discusses the situation with Tony Bates. These two will jump into their cars for the second half of this race. And we saw David Reynolds with that massive moment over the top, and incredible that there wasn't contact with the G-Technic car of Fraser Ross. There's Liam watching on.
See Fabian Coulthard walking in the garage there. We'll probably go to him very shortly. Paul Morris, Roland Dane. I'm not a perfect lip reader, but it did look like from Roland's point of view before that, you know, that we can't keep going, that we need just to... So Motorsport Australia reacting, which is good. It's a collective effort in these moments, naturally.
All right, so I'm down here with Tony Bates. Obviously harding him out stuff. It's not often you can spin in that part of the track and get away with it.
Yeah, I think there's some professional drivers out there doing a good job to keep them off the walls, but it's pretty hairy if the pros are doing that sort of stuff and we're going to get in the car. So I think the track's pretty dangerous out there, but yeah, see how we go.
No, I think they've made the right call taking the safety car out there. Obviously, you know, you have to put safety at the forefront, but yeah, you're going to be hopping in soon, and I think, you know, they've done the right thing. So hopefully the rain stays away and the track dries a little bit and you'll have a good run.
Yeah, I think Garth yesterday radiated in and said it was too dangerous to race out there, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's almost getting those conditions out there now. It's continuing to rain, and when you get guys like Van Gisbergen that are having losers and saving it, and Reynolds just come off, that's saying how bad the track is.
Dave did a great job keeping off the wall.
Yeah,
good luck for your stint.
Cheers, mate.
So this is a replay of Shane at the end of the back straight. Good chance for you, Michael, to have a look at it from a different angle now, and then you can see the trouble for Garth and then ultimately for David Reynolds.
Yeah, look, it's nearly synchronised spinning there, but it really does make it difficult. When that water's sitting on the track, it's not that you are trying to push through there. It's just a matter of literally, Shane would have been just cruising through there. You can hear how low he was in the revs. But that standing water doesn't give you an opportunity. You can't exactly just turn it hard right or hard left to actually miss it. And even then, by the time you realise it's underneath your wheels, that's where it gets difficult. So it looks like we've lost one on the inside. Oh no, that's just the sign.
It was interesting. Tanda's moment was precipitated by the fact that he straddled the curb at 7 and the car just would have bottomed out over that. But behind them, Reynolds and Stokel were having their own massive moment. Stubbsy?
Thank you, Yasser. Shaheen has just arrived here. He's been smart, keeping dry out of the way. But your take on Garth, one of the many out there with a good save?
Oh, look, he did a great job saving it. You can just see he's really just toddling around. And if it's that sketchy, I don't think they can continue.
if it does continue, the good news is that Shane van Gisbergen, they have an extra 5 seconds in their stop compared to you guys. So now with safety cars, it brings everyone back together. So that works in your advantage, doesn't it?
Yeah, small advantage, although we were pretty comfortable yesterday in the wet. Yeah, I just hope it stays safe enough to drive. Otherwise, we're looking forward to a good race.
Thanks for your time, mate.
Cheers.
Sepranich on the radio in the background. I think I spied Carl Reindler in there a moment ago chatting with Troy Russell and some of the team. Carl, an experienced racer in his own right, who's competed in supercars, for example, and these days are regularly at the wheel of the medical car in Formula One.
They're on a bit of a streak down there at Car 1, Yasser Shahin and Garth Tander, in that they've won the second race at both of the rounds so far. So at Phillip Island, they won race 2, and at Queensland Raceway, they won race 2. So the way it works with the AM driver bringing it home, Yasser's got the checkered flag in both of the races so far, and they're currently running second. So looking to break that streak is...
Yeah, mate, what do you think of the track now? Some of the stewards are asking, what do you think?
It sounds like they're asking the drivers what the track's like.
It's about to rain very hard, so maybe need another lap to wait.
So distant sort of radio there, but it did sound like Shane asking for at least another lap to survey it.
Yeah, I thought I heard it's not raining very hard, but give it another lap to wait. And he's correct, because it's not raining. It's not pouring down, it's still raining, but yeah, the standing water not being cleared, and that's the issue that causes these cars to aquaplane.
You can even see as they come up the back straight here, they're not even going fast, but the spray just covers the whole field. You know, what you see there behind where you can't see the cars with the spray, that's literally the vision that you get inside the car. So
yeah, copy, mate. They're talking about red flagging it just because of the lightning and flag marshals out there. I'll keep you updated.
So that was the word, that's the radio just talking to SVG about the potential of thunderstorm activity, and that was in the forecast for today. We're just letting the driver and engineer tell the story for us as well.
Red flag. Safety car just leads the cars into the pit lane.
And confirming the red flag has been called. Now, if there is thunderstorm activity in the region, it's incumbent on Motorsport Australia to throw the red flag for safety reasons, because we do need to make sure that our officials around the circuit are looked after in those conditions. And if there's lightning in the area, they need to be pulled in to make sure they're all A-OK. So red flag here and lightning. I've just seen some lightning at our commentary box window.
Yeah. I want to bring Michael in here if we can, just to have a look at the start of this race, because you'll have a better... The line down, I think these are joins in the pitch, and the standing water.
I'm just watching Shane.
You haven't seen this yet?
No, absolutely working the wheel. It's, yeah, it really does just make it difficult, because the steering just goes light, and you get no response on the car which way it's going to go. If it's going to go right or left, if it's actually going to turn, if it's the rear of the car, if you've got the throttle on. And it's the silence that actually, as a driver, that actually is the scary part. Everything goes silent when the wheels are locked, when you can't turn anything, and you just think, well, this is no good because I can't hear the engine. I don't know if I've got any grip.
And that's big speed there.
And exactly right. Going down into turn 1, he's done a brilliant job to keep that on the road.
This is it again. Just wanted to have another look so you can see the seam in the road. And the moment that car 888 gets to it, right there is the moment that it starts to lose traction, and there's that standing water as well. And Shane driving in a straight line at 200 kilometres an hour.
Look at the wheel work. Look at the wheel work.
On cold tyres. This is why it should be mandatory. All racing car drivers should wear white gloves so you can see how much wheel work they have from inside, and this from on board. And just have a listen to the throttle control as well.
Oh.
By the way, he took the lead doing that.
And he's off to do the World Rally Championship event.
Yeah, he's warming up.
He's going to win the thing by 10 minutes.
Well, isn't that how they go into the corners? You got to turn left, turn right.
And typical Sandown, there is actually blue sky directly above the venue. Quite extraordinary weather we've seen this weekend. Always when we put some motor racing on. Stubbsy?
Shane van Gisbergen, first of all, we'll start with that save of yours at the end of the straight on lap 1. We've had a couple of looks on it. We're loving the vision, mate. That was outrageous. Talk us through it.
Yeah, wearing a white suit's no good.
Mate, the conditions out there, talk us through it and the decisions and the way that this has played out.
Yeah, I don't want to say too much. I might get in trouble. I'm lucky I didn't from yesterday's comments, but they send us green when conditions are at their worst. Now it's stopped raining and we're sitting in pit lane under red flag, so I don't know what they're doing.
Well, there's a bit of lightning around, so safety is paramount, but obviously we're hoping to get out there racing. How's the car handling these conditions in general, the wet setup, obviously?
Oh, it's obviously pretty good. The guys have done a great job, but I thought the rear engine cars, those Audis, would be a bit quicker, but with the traction over the rear, but it's been pretty good. But I guess being out front and having the clear track probably helps too.
And your advice to Prince Jeffrey in there for when he hops in?
Take it easy. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like I've been half throttle down the straight most laps and just trying to avoid the puddles.
Shane, thanks for your time.
All right, cheers.
Solid advice, and Prince Jeffrey did a ripping job yesterday. He really did.
Outstanding bit of control, and that pass down the inside was absolutely critical to setting them up for the race win and giving the car in a position to Shane where he could then drive away from the field in his stint. So no,
you two would be pretty handy at Swan Lake, wouldn't you?
our colleague to our left, yes.
Do you know, the encouraging thing is when it does stop raining, it doesn't actually take that long to get going again. It's just a matter of, it just seems to be when it rains, it literally comes down in buckets loads. But I'd suspect as long as we don't get any thunder, we should be good soon.
And the other thing is the weather has been moving across very quickly, so the front sort of breeze across the circuit quite rapidly, and hopefully that's the case, Molly Taylor.
Dave Reynolds, that looked like a bit of fun out there. Talk us through what it was like going backwards down the track.
I don't know what your idea of fun is, but that's not fun. That was just scary. I feared for my life. I don't know what was going on. I was trying to, like, Fraser was having an accident, and I was just trying to stay in my lane, and all of a sudden I was having an accident, but I couldn't see, so I didn't even know I was having an accident. And yeah, it was just shit.
Has Tony Bates been on the cans to you?
No. I've got Seppi, and he's like coaching me through life again because I saw like the Grim Reaper, and I don't want to see that shit again. I'm done.
Oh, fair enough, but the car looks good. A little bit of dirt, a little bit of grass in the wheels, but otherwise all good.
I think so. I don't know.
All right, well, we'll see if we get back out there. Thanks, David.
No worries. Thanks, Molly.
Just going to jump in here with Garth Tander. He's just hopped out of the car to have a quick chat with Shane Van Gisbergen, now drying off the boots before he hops back in. Garth, how was the little mid-race chat with Shane there?
I asked him what he was doing at turn one at the start. He said he was completely out of control, so that sort of confirmed what I was thinking.
We saw some moments with you as well. We were chatting to Yasser. He couldn't believe that you were able to keep it together out there.
Yeah, that restart was ridiculous. I have absolutely no idea why they restarted us. It was borderline reckless, but we survived it. So hopefully now it stops raining, we can get going again.
How does it compare with everything from yesterday? The conditions out there, the amount of water, how bad is it?
Just as bad.
Okay, thanks, mate.
Thanks, Stubbsy. Nice work down there. Fairly straightforward comments from both Garth Tander and David Reynolds. Questioning whether it's Molly Taylor's idea of fun. He is talking to a national rally champion there, by the way. So these conditions absolutely made for our reporter.
Could you imagine the life lessons from Paul Separich too? Be very short, sharp.
I can. They're not publishable.
No, that's exactly right.
He's a guy with an enormous amount of experience, isn't he, in terms of car engineering, build, and has worked with some great race teams around the world over the years.
I mean, after watching on, imagine the AMs now. So they're watching on, yes, it might be not raining at the moment. They've just seen the cars out of control, and these guys, all the pros just going, oh, you know, they're a bit scared. But, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they handle it.
Back to the lane, Chris.
Will Brown, we can stand here and smile and laugh because you're not in the car at the moment.
Yeah, it's probably nice not being out there right now. It looked pretty slippery. I just went and talked to Shane. I said, I don't know if that was arse or class into one. It was pretty cool how crossed up he was and a pretty cool move. But, yeah, when you see them all spinning off, you know, lap after lap, I can see why they've called it now.
What was his answer, class or arse?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think he said he thought he was going to pirouette it, but he did a pretty good job to save it. The onboard was really cool, but I think you know, the rain stopped. I guess if they do a few laps under safety car, they'll probably move some water off and get going again.
And what are your guys and girls doing to the car at the moment in terms of the setup? Just leave it as it was? It was full wet already?
Yeah, we had a full wet setup earlier, and then it was mainly dry the race until the end, so we were struggling a bit, and then last lap it felt quite good, so we'll just leave it the same and see what the weather does.
All right, we'll see you then.
Cheers, thank you.
Huge weekend for that young man at Pukekohe. Incredible to see him smiling and doing a good job again in TCR. We haven't had a good chance to talk to you, Michael Caruso, now that things have settled. You okay?
Much like the words that we've heard from Dave. Maybe a little bit more colourful when you're not on TV, but yeah, it was genuinely scary that last lap in our race. Couldn't see a thing at the start. Literally couldn't see the car in front of me, and I knew he was, you know, right there. So not being able to see lights or where any cars were, to the point when we came back around to finish the race, knowing it was the last lap. Having a front-wheel drive aquaplane, I've never had that before, and that was scary because it's just walking, you know, just walking all over the track. So I didn't know if it was what the car was going to do.
So we understand that Motorsport Australia are sending officials out to do some laps and just to check standing water around the circuit, and hopefully we can resume some racing. So Shane Van Gisbergen rather to the left of your screen. So watch
Fraser Ross on the right in the Audi, who didn't have quite the larger moment that Shane did. That was a lap later because he was dicing with Paul Stokel in the KFC car as they were running down towards turn 1.
And these cars are not built to go sideways by any shape or form. I mean, we've seen in supercars and TCR that, you know, they do move around a little bit, in Trans Am, the cars move around, but these cars are built, they're so stiff. They're meant to get the maximum grip out of the tyre, and obviously the straighter you drive them, the faster they are.
Reminder too that we have one big round to come as far as our season is concerned, and fittingly it is at the Mountain in November. The Bathurst International tickets are on sale now. What a way to wrap things up. Trans Am might be decided here this afternoon, but they will be on the bill too. Richard Craill, great to see them at the Mountain.
Yeah, Gulf Western Oil Touring Car Masters are there, and the Historics put on a really good show at that place. Porsches will be racing, and a 3-hour enduro for Fanatec GT World Challenge powered by AWS, something of a 12-hour warm-up and a key round to the Endurance Championship of this year's season as well. And in fact, we had a little breaking news around that yesterday, Rusty, and that our colleague came up and just suddenly dropped that he'd done the deal to race, but gave us absolutely donuts in terms of what car it was, what team it was, who he's co-driving with. But he slid it in because we were talking about the stars that are going to run, and we need to add Michael Caruso's name. Can you tell us anything more, Robbo, about what you're going to be driving there, please, outside of the Alpha in TCR?
You can see that they're just trying to clear the water off the track at the moment.
Very good.
Can't confirm or deny.
Okay, can we at least put a full stop on the TCR side of things for you, and how you, maybe you've seen a replay, maybe you haven't, how you felt about the contact with Bailey Sweeney down at turn 2?
Felt? It was a big hit. Man, I just didn't see it coming. I obviously don't look backwards when I'm turning into a corner, but yeah, it was such a big hit. I was more surprised not to get out of the dirt, or out of the mud, rather, but that the rear of my car wasn't sandwiched, you know, windows broken. So, yeah, really big hit. He came down and apologised straight away. I mean, yeah, he obviously made a pretty big error, but yeah, disappointing because every time I've been in a position this year...
You were third, mate, at the time.
Had a mega start, which would have set us up for the last race this afternoon. That no doubt is everybody's sort of looking forward to, because mixed grid positions this afternoon is really going to throw another spanner into works.
Definitely.
Not that we need any.
No, there's been plenty of... There's been a whole toolkit thrown at the works today. The incredible thing for me about TCR is how Tony D'Alberto has been in the thick of all of the action, and yet it's serenely glided by it all. It's been quite remarkable for his championship these last 2 races.
So race control.
Nothing sticks to D'Alberto, does it?
That's Carl Reindler in the passenger seat of the Hyundai race control vehicle, just doing an assessment. So Carl's pretty good at this gig, and as Rusty mentioned before, does it for Formula One on the world circuit in the medical car that he drives at about half of the Grands Prix this year. So Carl's gone out there on behalf of Motorsport Australia Race Control to assess the conditions and the standing water around the racetrack. And would you believe it, blue sky and the sun desperately trying to poke its head through the clouds at the moment.
Krause, just while we're in this delay here, a little something. We are very fortunate to get some special guests that come to the track at each round of Super Cheap Auto TCR, and our Fabian Coulthard caught up with someone who's well known in the sporting landscape, who was here at Sandown.
All right, so we're down here with Billy Slater, NRL legend, player for the Melbourne Storm. First time in a TCR car, how was it?
I'm still buzzing. When you're sitting in the passenger seat, you've got no control. So my foot was just planted to the floor, trying to find a break somewhere. But it wasn't just a hot lap. We're actually in a race. And I think the boys got a little bit competitive and they come really close to one another, but I think we pipped them on the line.
Yeah, perfect. So a real good battle of the codes, NRL, AFL. So it was good to see you got the win. But you know, you've done some pretty cool things in your time. You know, NRL and things like that. But how did that compare? Being in the passenger seat?
Oh, just the adrenaline. I liken it to skydiving, bungee jumping. Like I feel like I've got an adrenaline rush right now. I'm still coming down. So, yeah, obviously went out with Josh Buchan and you know, we took on Tony and Christian. So, yeah, no, it was great. It was great. I haven't done anything like this before. Always stayed to the speed limit, but that was something else.
So Sandown Raceway, the home of horsepower.
Yes.
You know, you started your career on horses.
I did.
I did. Real engines, real motors. Pretty cool experience. So glad to hear you enjoyed it, and you know, hopefully we can see you in a car sometime again soon.
Will do. Thank you.
Cheers.
Legend of the NRL, of course, played for Melbourne Storm, Queensland, and represented Australia as well. Great to have him here at the circuit this weekend. Let's go to Chris.
Thanks, Rusty. It's still raining lightly at the moment, but we'll grab Carl Reiner to get an update on the situation. We may have some racing soon.
Yeah, I think so. I've just been for a lap in the one of the support vehicles out there. I've spoken to a few of the drivers. The trouble is it's changeable conditions at the moment. Right now, the track looks quite good. So the advice that I've given Laurie as race director is that we're going to get the cars out behind the safety car. I think cars circulating around is going to disperse some of the water. I'll get some feedback from the drivers by their engineers, of course, and we'll make a decision from there. But it's going to be changing a lot over the next 10 to 15 minutes, I think.
Well, closer than we were a few moments ago. It's a tough job. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, trying my hardest. Thanks, mate.
And Carl is very good at this job, and B is very pro the driver verdict of it. And of course, he's been a professional racing car driver for a long time. So he gets it from the driver's point of view, but he, with the sporting hat on as well, he's very keen to see the racing proceed. So he'll factor in all of the various scenarios.
Part of the Australian Racing Group executive, John McMillan, to the left there, chatting with Carl, who we've just heard from. At the end of the day, we want, you know, to get a show and to get the cars out on track and entertainment. We want to also do it safely, and we do that in conjunction with Motorsport Australia. So the collective coming to the fore here, and Carl rightly trying to support the drivers getting out there and hopefully to try and disperse some of this water. Rain doesn't look like it is falling again. Garth Tander fires up the Audi. We have 23 minutes remaining. And we're getting clarity for those of you at home asking too, just in relation to what happens with the pit window here. So, given the interruption we've had.
I've asked race control. They've had a bit on for the last 20 minutes, so they're going to come back to me. I'm on hold.
Thanks for your call, Richard.
Your call is important to us.
That's right.
I'm about 25th in the queue at the moment.
That's right.
Art Dane is just in front of me, it turns out. So, yeah, no, we're working through that, and we'll get an answer for you as to when they have to complete the mandatory pit stop time, because the mandatory pit stop window closed a minute and a half ago. So clearly they've not done that yet, but there is a requirement for both drivers to drive the car within that 60-minute window. So my suggestion would be that there will be a driver change at some point very, very soon. In fact, I think in front of me in that queue for race control was Chris Stubbs. He might be able to shed more light on it.
Look, everything's subject to change at the moment, but just speaking to race officials, the plan is that they'll have one lap of racing and then the pit window will open. So they are obviously very aware they need to get those pit stops done ASAP.
Your contact book's very good, my friend. Nice work.
Well, nothing else to do. It's raining. There's no cars going around. May as well talk to people, hey?
Nice job. Our pit lane team.
Geez, pit lane's going to light up.
Isn't it?
Pretty quickly,
And
isn't it?
the brutal irony of...
Or does it?
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Thank you. Good info.
I think it does, yes. Yeah, I agree
In
with you.
case
but
they stop the race?
That too, yeah. I think you need to get it done.
Michael, Richard has an ice cream headache already.
Yes,
I know.
Don't
I
make
don't wanna-
smoke coming off my laptop.
I don't want to
It's very
confuse you,
difficult.
but I can imagine the AMs going, wait a sec, guys, you're doing a good job.
Yeah, but there is a requirement they both drive. So to get the points, I think they have to make sure. And for SVG and for Garth Tander especially, it's about their AMs getting points in the championship. So they need to look after Yasser Sheehan and Jeffrey Ibrahim respectively to make sure they get their points. So I think they'll be pretty focused on that. I was just going to say, the brutal irony of this weekend of racing is that every time we've had to pause a race because of the weather's broken, and we've had a period, but then the track is flooded and we haven't been able to run. The moment we go back to racing, it starts raining again. But such is the nature of racing here at Sandown. It's been that way for a long time, and it's all part of coming to this amazing venue, Rusty.
And I think a few people asked on social media that question yesterday when we were wrapping up the coverage, because it did look like it had stopped and was clearing and so on. But that's where we draw your attention to what you said earlier in relation to the safety of our marshals and officials, particularly if there's lightning in the area. We've got a duty of care with those good people.
So the race has not stopped officially because the clock continues to tick. It was suspended behind the safety car with the field in pit lane under red flag conditions. So there's still officially 20 minutes to go in the race. We resume now on track behind the Hyundai safety car.
Just confirming it won't restart this lap. It won't restart this lap.
So no restart this lap is the word from the team to Shane van Gisbergen.
Has been lightning off to the right of where Shane van Gisbergen is right now in the distance.
Just behind that there'll be a rainbow and then a 25-degree day and then a thunderstorm probably, based on the way it's been going this weekend.
We took a picture at the very end of the coverage yesterday and it looked like the rainbow was going into Matty White's back pocket. Crazy scenes here.
There's been, even with the limited racing, there's been some terrific drives in this, and Greg Russ touched on it earlier. Sam Brabham 6th outright, Declan Fraser 7th outright in the GT4 cars. So they've been very, very effective, and a special word to Trent Harrison as well in the KTM, the GT4 Crossbow, up to 4th outright. Really good performance.
So John's in there now talking with Paul Morris and Roland Dane.
Yeah, okay.
Not a bad time to have less horsepower in these conditions.
Yes, correct, absolutely. It's sort of inbuilt traction control, isn't it? Although these cars do run the driver aid, so ABS and traction control, and they are adjustable. The Audis have got a multiple position sensor in it. Here's Yasser just doing some warm-ups.
If you didn't think he takes it seriously.
It's incredibly serious.
Love it.
And we're talking like a golf handicap analogy. Like these guys are going off a pretty low number in terms of their game of golf, which is, for a lot of these drivers, it's what it is. This is their break away from a professional or corporate life. Yasser heads up with his brother Sam and brother Charlie, the Peregrine Corporation in SA, and I mean, they employ 3,000 people. So
there's 9 through to 12.
There's a lot going on in their professional life. This is their opportunity to get away and enjoy their favourite sport. So they do take it ferociously seriously in a lot of instances because they want results out of it to get that maximum enjoyment.
You don't come hyper successful in the business world if you're not very competitive, so there's a bit of a crossover there.
Both of them are competitive, aren't they? Both Sam and Yasser in that regard. That voice before, incidentally, was Eric Pender on the radio to Garth Tander, trying to gauge his thoughts on what the condition of the racetrack was in the final sector, what the was like.
It's actually interesting to see Garth run his visor down. So that's a tinted visor. Probably not not the best idea. I mean, he obviously gets good visibility through it, but having a tinted visor while it's dark and yeah, interesting approach.
Garth's actually missing a race named, or an event named in his honour this weekend over at his home racetrack at Wanneroo Raceway in the West. The West Australian Sporting Car Club this weekend are holding the Tander Trophy race medals.
Oh, wow.
And there's a bunch of categories running there, including Formula Ford, which is a category that Garth Tander started his career in over there in the West. The signal breakup from our onboard over the far side of the circuit. So unfortunately, GT not there to hand out the trophies. A colleague of ours, journalist Andrew Van Leeuwen, actually got a trophy yesterday in Formula Ford in the Kent class, I'm told. So very nice job.
He did a super job too with the book on Toby Price actually in the past 12 months. That's a very good read.
So that's Carl Reimer just talking to the teams as he suggested he'd do when he spoke to Chris Stubbs just before. Still waiting on clarity, full clarity about when these teams will be allowed to peel off into pit lane to put the driver in. And then the mandatory pit stop time remains the same, whether you're under yellow or not. So the 100 or 105 seconds, depending on what your pit stop time is, will remain the same. So there could well be change in the order under yellow while they complete their mandatory pit stops. I'm not going to dig too deep into that right now. Yeah, there's enough going on. We'll come to that if and when we get to that point.
Ken Collier coming back to us just in relation to that question about the... You just floated there, Richard. We'll get an answer on that for you. 16 and a half minutes remaining in this race.
What about our fantastic camera crew out there as well at the moment, braving it out? They can't catch a break, can they? Hey guys, we're going to cruise, take it easy. Wait a second, it's raining again.
And they're often in the most exposed positions of anyone around the circuit because they're elevated up and they need full visibility, so there's no obstructions around them they can hide behind. Tough job, but someone's got to bring the pictures to you here on Stan Sport. We hope you're enjoying it wherever you might be watching around Australia on Stan or around the world. Indeed, I know a lot of people tune in. Should give a quick shout out to their crew at Supercars Argentina that are massive fans of Australian motor racing, and they live tweet every event. Doesn't matter what it is. They love watching it. G'day to you guys over there in South America.
They posted one yesterday and I thought, oh, maybe I said something wrong in the commentary. So I had to cut and paste it in the translate and figure out what they said.
I was just about to ask, how did you work out what they're saying?
Because I thought, oh, maybe I said something wrong.
Fluent in Spanish, Greg. No one knows this.
What would you do without Google Translate?
Exactly. Exactly. Hey, just quickly, you know, we've talked about some of the beautiful cars in this class, from the Mercedes AMGs to the Audi R8s, but sitting in fourth at the moment is the KTM Crossbow, the GT2 car. 2.5-litre, 5-cylinder power plant, carbon fibre monocoque, beautiful machine.
It really is, and it's part of a new wave of GT cars coming in the GT2 class, which is sort of the best way to describe it's an entry-level GT3. More affordability built in, easy to drive, to maintain, to run for more of the AM-style driver, but they're still a pretty serious bit of kit. And actually, at the Bathurst 12-hour earlier this year, that car was the quickest car in a straight line down Conrod Straight, quicker than GT3 cars. Really, really fast thing, like 285 into the kink and flat well the way through it. So, yeah, it's a properly impressive bit of kit. David Crampton brought that car over. It made its debut at the 12-hour. He's run KTM's GT4 car with success before, and it's cool to see that GT2 here. It's a wild thing.
Austrian manufacturer, Mattighofen. KTM makes some unbelievably good bikes that Toby Price has been successful on at Dakar, and that Jack Miller will ride for in MotoGP next year, but we need to think of them as well in a four-wheel capacity.
And they've won key races in GT4 competition, the same cars that we see Sam Brabham and Declan Fraser driving now, with the GT4 version of the Crossbow, which has been a very successful car. As the bright sunshine, Molly Taylor breaks through the clouds here at Sandown.
Yeah, it certainly does, but the feedback from some of the drivers that we're hearing is that's actually causing a bit of an issue too as well, and that sun glare adding to all that water spray as well is making visibility even harder right now. So ironically, the sun's not helping in that regard, so maybe that's why Garth Tander had that visor on cruise.
As I look over the background, I can see a beautiful rainbow.
It really is spectacular. I mean, any other day, you'd look at that cloud bank and go, I'm going to get a photo for the gram for that. That looks incredible. But, yeah, wow. Rainbows we saw yesterday, thunderstorms, lightning, massive amounts of rain, sunshine.
I reckon we're missing a sponsorship opportunity here. Caruso's Weather. He could be outside with the, give us the humidity and, you know.
I'm up early enough in the morning with 3 kids, mate. I can run to the weather pretty easily.
You get a lot of TV time. It's so changeable at the moment. So,
in the meantime, just swanning around up here in the commentary box.
Oh, well done.
Jeez. One of your best, mate.
The light's still on the Hyundai safety car here. Hearing some talk, Richard, about potentially some teams coming to the mountain, maybe getting a little, you know, prepared for the Bathurst 12-hour. So November could be really big, not just in a domestic sense for our GT competitors.
Yeah, look, I'm pretty confident Christopher Meese, the gun German who won the 12-hour twice and is a global GT champion in the international forms of GT3 racing. He's won the Spa 24-hour, all the majors, factory Audi pilot. Pretty confident he'll be back with the factory Audi team. There's some talk that Triple Eight may run a couple more cars because they've got more in the stable. They've got to deal with GT World Challenge Asia first, and they'll finish that championship next weekend at the Yokoyama circuit in Japan. Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim is tied for the lead there, so they've got a bit of work to do to claim that, but they've certainly got more Mercedes AMG cars. There's a few international names being thrown around to join the GT grid. I'm pretty confident to come back this international event sponsored by Supercheap in November. We're going to see some cool names and some cool cars And GT racing at the mountain is awesome. These cars at that place, when it's like Spa or the Nürburgring or whatever it might be. Just to bring you up to date a little bit further on the pit stop situation, the race has to officially restart before they can actually get the cars into pit lane. The problem is there's only 11 minutes left on the clock of this 60-minute timed race. So they need to get back to green before they can start these pit stops rolling through in the mandatory pit stop window. The reasoning behind that is that the pit stop penalty is designed as a balance of performance within the field, and if you do it on yellow, it really negates that because you'll just roll out behind the safety car anyway. There's Ross Palakis, the Harold Racing car, had a really impressive drive yesterday to win the AM class.
We handed over some checks thanks to Harold's this weekend for the first time too, for pole position for the best AM combo and the best Pro-Am combo in qualifying. So thank you to them. $1,000 to each of those winners.
I think it should be restart this lap. There's about 10.5 minutes remaining at the moment.
So where it is potential of a restart, and then that throws into the equation of a pit stop and getting the AM driver in the car for these pros, especially at the front. It's going to be a busy little finish to this second race in Fanatec GT World Challenge, powered by AWS. Championship from here puts pause on the sprint racing element of their season, and we head to the Bend Motorsport Park in late October for a round there, which is a really good track for GT cars, fast-flowing open circuit. Then it's Supercheap Auto Bathurst International, with the 3-hour Enduro, which is going to be one of the headliners there at that event. And then the sprint season will finish on the streets of Adelaide at the Adelaide 500 in early December. So a street circuit to end the year for these cars. So lots of racing for GT domestically.
For restart, so lights out and accelerate away. If the leader could slow to 80, that would be good.
Now, I'm really interested. This is where the strategy
race control.
comes
Safety
in.
car lights are out and we're accelerating away.
How do you play it? Do you get one lap under your belt, get the tyres up and try to make a gap? Do you pit immediately? Because this will really play out the rest of the race, I think.
Half a mind to fail right now. Dive in, put your hand in, and see how it goes. But it's a difficult call to make. So they do need to restart, but it's the point when they throw the green. It's always the controversial in motorsport around the world. It's like, where do you judge the race having restarted before you can actually get into pit lane? So it's gone green now, so technically you could dive off. They're not going to, though. The pros will do the business at least for one lap. We're back underway at Sandown. 8 minutes on the clock, but I feel like we're going to cram a whole lot of action into that short space of time.
Might be teammates when it comes to endurance competition. Game on now, though, between Van Gisbergen versus Tander. Fraser Ross in third, then Paul Stokel, Harrison and Brabham. Great job by Sam Brabham to be sitting in 6th place ahead of Declan Fraser, the GT4 battle.
Those GT4 cars have been outstanding, and they did a lot of that work in pace. It wasn't necessarily other cars falling off. So in wet conditions, a GT4 car is a very good thing to have. And we've just had it confirmed by race control that the pit stop window is now open.
Just remember the race will still finish at one lap after 14:34.
So time certainly doesn't change. It's a 60-minute timed car race. That hasn't changed. So the AMs are going to have to do about 5 minutes of this race, but they could be the most important 5 minutes of their championship season to bring them home straight.
No pressure.
And remember, they'll be sitting in pit lane for 100 seconds, sometimes a little bit more.
Shane's staying out. Leave the pro in for as long as humanly possible.
They've done an amazing job. Everyone's kept it pretty clean here.
A bunch of cars will start the pit stop sequence. Garth Walden in, they went down a lap with that issue early on. In fact, they went down 3 laps being bogged at turn 11. of the KFC Audis in as well. That's Matt Stupas. Ross Polakis is in for Harold's Racing with Valente Rosso. And Mark Sini brings his Audi R8 into the paddock as well. So it's a timed pit stop. You can make changes to the car. You can put tyres on if you feel the need. They won't need to do that in this race given the limited green flag running.
Suggestion from pit lane is maybe 2 more laps for Shane Van Gisbergen before he'll be in. You could see Michael Sheargold, Mike Sheargold walking out there before to jump behind the wheel of the Mercedes AMG that he shares there with Garth Walden. So jumping behind the wheel.
So the key number to know, talked about this in yesterday's race and leading into today, the pit stop times are success-based.
Yeah,
you get time added.
2 more laps.
And that confirms it for the race-leading car. You get time added if you have success. So this car won yesterday. It had 5 seconds added to the mandatory pit stop time. So this car's stop is 5 seconds longer than that car's pit stop.
As Michael Caruso points to the screen, what's the margin, Michael?
3.9. I reckon he's going to do it. He's going to give himself enough of a buffer to actually put themselves in a great little spot.
And we're told car 1 will pit this lap for their driver change. So I don't mind going off sequence a little bit, as much as you can when you've got 5 minutes to go in a race. 1 lap could make a little bit of a difference.
They're banking on Yasser going quick straight out of the box and making perhaps a bit of ground relative to Prince Jeffrey then, if that's the case. So do 888 react here. The suggestion was 2 laps before Shane would come in.
I would have thought that Shane's still going to be faster than Yasser.
But you'll have Yasser on slightly better pressure and temperature tyres perhaps for that 1 lap dash I think we're going to have at the end. We're clutching at straws because it's going to be such a short dash to the finish. That's the problem with this strategic scenario.
Either way, it's going to be good, I reckon.
Pit this lap, no option was the word to SVG, and he's right, because if they go any longer, they'll be out of race time. In comes car number 1. Garth Tander's done this a few times.
Moving over now. Remove your pit lane speed limit. You can loosen the...
And in comes the G-Technic car as well. So all the Audis peeling, and Reynolds has stayed out. So he'll assume 2nd position. And lap times are minute 19 at the moment. So 80 seconds. So Van Gisbergen's going to get all the way round. He's probably going to come in and pass this car while it's sitting stationary. Shane is flying too. GT4 cars both pit line stand. So this is a pit stop battle for the class victory here between these two.
Middle sector, fastest we've seen from Shane Van Gisbergen as well. So he, as Michael pointed out before, rightly making hay with that extra lap. No immediate panic during the pit stop changeover between Garth Tander and Yasser Shahin. You don't need to. It's not like other forms of endurance racing. In that minute or so, Michael, you can just be calm, get it right, execute it. No.
Plenty of time. I mean, we saw yesterday Yasser come in a bit of a scurry, missed his box, parked in on a 45. Didn't affect him too much, but be interesting to watch Shane. Is he going to go past?
You're good to go.
So he's gone a lap ahead in the race right now, though. But it's about to change because Yasser Shahin, who's been passed by Liam Talbot. So a quick release for Liam Talbot's got him out in front of Yasser Shahin.
This will be juicy.
So they will now blaze as hard as they can.
Remember the blend line.
To get out in front and see where they come out in relation to Jeffrey.
Go, Yasser, go. Straight he goes for it. I love it.
He has to. I think he has to. And there's almost contact between the two Audis. This could be the moment of the race. This could decide it. It's going to be so close on the rejoin. 888 at work. 105 seconds stationary.
About 40 seconds to go. ABS and TC to 6 and 6.
He's doing a good job, keeping him at bay.
About 35 seconds to go, mate. All clear in the lane at the moment. You should be good to go.
What's the margin going to be?
Right to start the car up at about 10 seconds to go. You're right to start the car at about 10 seconds to go. Watching to the green on your timer. Watching to green on your timer.
There's a
It's
minute.
all clear at the moment. There's just one Audi in the lane, one Audi in the lane.
Minute 40 seconds to go. That customary, clear, concise radio communication we hear so many times. Talbot into the final corners now. Jeffrey Ibrahim leaving pit lane. This is going to be pretty close. He's going to get two Audis coming at him at warp speed as he drives out of pit lane. And the two Audis are fighting. So car 888's in front, but these two R8s are coming at him at high speed. And Tony Bates has jumped them both. He's out in second place.
This is the last lap, we're being told. This is the run to home. Unbelievable. So while those two were fighting, the benefit of Shane with that extra lap paying dividends, and well done to David Reynolds. Ditto, the same strategy, the same move. These two continue to fight.
I think these two battling has cost them an opportunity at winning this race.
Oh. Marcini has had a moment in that slippery final sequence of corners. I think not over.
And Tony Bates is having a run at the race lead. Here goes the Audi down the inside at turn 6. It's big, bold, brave stuff. And he gets it down the inside. And the other two Audis are coming like a freight train.
Man, don't leave these guys behind pass.
Final few corners. It's not done yet.
They're asking Prince Jeffrey to keep Yasser at bay. You ride with Yasser. She hit now. Looks down the inside. No! Batesy's gone. Tony Bates has gone round. Yasser to the lead. Yasser's gone to the lead.
They're going to win it. Car number 1 wins it. Whoa, it's come from the clouds at Sandown today. And Yasser Shahin and Garth Tander from nowhere win it. They've stolen it. Stolen it right at the end. Tony Bates dropped it at turn 11. Well,
that is wild.
We waited an hour of that.
I came out to watch on pit lane and I heard all the yelling and screaming of what was going on. Good job, mate. Good pressure on that last lap. Well done.
Third win of the season.
Honestly, I'm blown away. That is...
We have had some car racing today. What a finish. Check this out.
He had it in the bag.
It just aquaplaned. And then he spears it off. Shahin made the pass at that moment.
What are you doing, Tony?
It's hard to describe, Rusty, how this has played out.
The call was from Michael Caruso as they left the lane. This will be juicy, and it was right to the very end.
I didn't think it was going to be that juicy. That is ridiculous. What a race.
And massive pressure from Yasser Shahin on that final lap to get the pass done on Jeffrey Ibrahim.
I didn't think it would play out like that. No way.
He had 2 laps of racing in that race, Yasser Shahin, and he's won it for them. It's the 3rd time in 3 rounds they have won the 2nd race in a weekend. And that is one of the more incredible finishes to a GT race you will see at any venue. The GT4 battle, by the way, went the way of Declan Fraser and Mark Griffith.
Matt Stupas got to 4th as well in the end. Some
awesome job from Paul Stokel earlier in the race. Here they are.
Can you believe it? Look at him.
Well, they led a lap, Rusty. They didn't even lead a lap. They led 3 corners of that one. That is truly remarkable. Red flag in the middle, race suspended with the weather. A late pit stop. Yasser Shahin jumped in and left pit lane with 3 minutes remaining.
Eric Pender joins the celebrations there, and you heard him on the radio before. He said, I went to pit wall. He said, I couldn't understand what all the yelling and screaming in the pit garage was about. I think Chris Stubbs is standing by, so we'll take you there.
We'll grab Yasser. Obviously, everyone wants a piece of Yasser Shahin at the moment. Yasser, mate, that is incredible. You've only raced out there for a couple of laps, but they were the craziest couple of laps of your life. Talk us through it.
Jeez, I tell you what, this is why you come racing, isn't it? We won't be forgetting today in a hurry. To be honest, before I got in, I was thinking, I don't want to get in today. Let's just can it. But then we got out there and The red mist comes, but it was actually blue mist today, so it's all good.
When you saw Batesy go off, what were you thinking?
I was thinking, I just want to avoid him, and I reckon this is mine. It's good.
Garth, for you watching on, you're sitting here laughing. Like, talk us through that.
I have no idea what just happened, Stubbsy. I got out of the car, took my helmet off, saw Yass was just passing every car that he came across, and then the race was finished and we were in the lead. So, yeah, obviously tough conditions for everyone, really, really tough at the start, and just had to really survive the best we could. And I had no idea that Yass would be getting in for a lap or two, and it was only going to be that short. So just survival, good points for Yasser for his championship. Car's straight, that's the most important thing, and not a bad weekend.
Boys, well done. Go and enjoy the podium.
Yes, thank you.
All right. This is the highlights of a race that I don't really know how to debrief. This happened at the start. Look at Shane Van Gisbergen, gets into the tram tracks where it joins the tarmac, joins some standing water, unbelievable car control, and takes the lead.
I bow to his car control and driving talent and ability, Rusty. It's just extraordinary. He held on to that. Ross Palakis had the spin. He wasn't the only one, though. He was joined in sympathy there by Garth Walden, who spun the sheer gold car out and necessitated the safety car. We restarted, but the weather was horrendous. It was teeming down, and you couldn't see more than a couple of metres in front of you. And that was if you were leading the race. And then this wild stuff. So that is Shane Van Gisbergen, one of the best drivers on the planet right now, drops it. Tander drops it behind him. Reynolds, a Bathurst winner, has a huge moment and fires the car off. And Paul Stokel, an Australian drivers champion 3 times, does the same thing. That brings out the Hyundai safety car for the second time, and ultimately the race was suspended. We finally rolled out, and the scenario was a 10-minute dash to the end with a compulsory pit stop still to serve, believe it or not. Van Gisbergen restarted with Tander next. He tried to build a margin as big as he could because they knew he had to stop for longer, 5 seconds longer, to give the car over to Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim. Audi blinked first. They pitted first to give Yasser Shahin 2 laps. He was beaten out of the lane by Liam Talbot. Those two had their own private little battle, and for a moment it looked like it could cost them an opportunity of winning the race. The biggest surprise to that point was Tony Bates coming out in second. So all of a sudden it was Ibrahim versus Bates. He then went down the inside at turn 6. An incredible move and made it stick. And for a moment it looked like car 24 was going to win that race. But then this, standing water on the run into turn 11. Aquaplanes, gravel, day done. Behind them, Yasser Shahin had just squeaked by the Mercedes AMG. And from absolutely nowhere, the championship leader and Garth Tander steal a Fanatec GT World Challenge powered by AWS thriller at Sandown Motor Raceway. What a day. Let's go to Molly Taylor.
Well, it certainly was a thriller. Tony, thanks for providing one of the most entertaining laps that we've had around here. That move to take the lead was unreal, then hit the standing water. Talk us through that.
I didn't know it was the last lap. I didn't know we were in the lead, so I had a look. There was miles past. We thought maybe in the lead, and the Prince was miles off, so I didn't need to do anything silly. There's basically a river that's going across there, and I think I just broke in the river, and that was it. Had no traction, so. Lucky you don't have a mic on me in the car, because there's a few superlatives that I was saying, that's for sure.
Was there a bit of comments from Davey Reynolds when you came in, like, I know what that feels like. I just been there 2 seconds ago.
Yeah, the conditions were really bad today. I think we saw, because there's a lake in the middle of this track, and it got really high, and I saw some ducks trying to cross the track, go back home. It was weird.
Well, a disappointing finish, but there's got to be some confidence to take out of that, because that was a brilliant fight.
We had a terrible car yesterday. Dave got out of the car and said, "Car's mega," and in that first lap, the car felt so good. I had a look on the Prince on the inside there. I thought, bin it or win it here. So yeah, it was good. The half a lap I did was really, 3/4 of a lap I did was really good. So I only had to come around one turn and we win the race apparently. So.
What happened? What'd you do?
My foot slipped off the pedal.
Oh, thanks, guys, and good luck at the bend, hey?
No, thanks, and hi to Liam. To Chelsea, Porsche, and Xander. They're all watching.
And Ryu at home. Thanks, Molly. Coming up on Stan Sport tomorrow, 9 o'clock. You don't want to miss this. The UCI Road World Cycling Championships are up in Wollongong. 1,000 of the world's best cyclists will compete for outright honours across 8 days of World Championship racing around the beautiful picturesque city of Wollongong. Every race is ad-free, live and on demand here on Stan Sports. Well, we're going to debrief that race as the day continues and more weather rolls in over Sandown. In the meantime, let's go and celebrate it. Let's get to the podium, and that's where we find Greg Rust.
It's time for the trophy presentation for the Pro-Am class in round 3 of the Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia, powered by AWS. We are delighted to have with us today to present the trophies to our top 3 Pro-Am for the round from SRO Motorsports Group, Mr. Benjamin Franasovici. In third place today, from G-Technic, put your hands together for Liam Talbot and Fraser Ross. In second place for the weekend here at Sandown, make some noise for Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim and Shane Van Gisbergen from 888 Johor Racing. And your winners of a wet round here at Sandown, a very memorable weekend. Give it up for Yasser Shahin and Garth Tander. Nice congratulations among the drivers. Trophies have been presented. We'll let the media here grab a quick photo. The champagne is there. Drivers, congratulations. The podium is yours.
So there you go, celebrations yet again for yet another crazy race here on a crazy weekend at Sandown. We've still got Touring Car Masters to come, the Turtle West Trans Am Series, so the final race in their championship. We will see them at Bathurst, but this is where they'll wrap up the championship between Nathan Hearn and Owen Kelly. And then, of course, we'll finish it off this afternoon here in Victoria with Touring Car Racing Australia. So, look, I've got to say, I've given up trying to predict the weather. I've given up trying to predict how these races are going to finish, because I do know that just when we think we've had it all, we get even more pure insanity. That was crazy.
Yeah, that's a really good summary of that. Completely on the edge of our seats, and yeah, so cool to watch as race fans, see everyone out there in all those mixed conditions, just giving it everything. And you can just see, you know, by the emotion when everyone gets to pit lane, just what it means to everyone that's out there battling all the elements.
And the back end of that race is a good time to be a professional driver, Fabs. You've been enjoying the fact that you haven't had to steer today.
No, it's been great. And, you know, I don't mind racing in the rain, but when the conditions are that bad, it's definitely nice to be on this side of the fence. But, you know, for an hour-long race, to have that action in that last part of that race, it was tremendous.
So that means that Touring Car Masters are next, and we come off the back of the closest ever finish in TCM history. 2 1,000ths of a second, I think the finish was in our previous race. So again, anything's possible here. I mean, honestly, you've just got to give up predicting anything, and that makes it tough on the engineers. So we always focus on the drivers, but those up and down here at pit lane trying to work out what's going to happen next, that's their job, and good luck to that one.
Yeah, for sure. It's their thing that they have to worry about. You know, they're the ones on the big dollars, you know, getting the money for making the big calls. So, yeah, they've definitely got their work cut out. The conditions are changing by the minute, and it's really, really tough.
And it's, I mean, now it is solidly wet, but even this morning when it was mixed and the track was drying, you know, there is obviously between the slicks and the wet tyres you can put on, but when you're talking about a wet setup, the optimal wet setup, it's not just a 2-minute thing to quickly come in the lane and do. It can be quite involved, changing camber settings, toe settings, even springs, you know, changing roll bars and things that take a bit of time. So you've got to commit to one bit quite early on in terms of the overall setup, and then there's only smaller things you can change.
What about Molly? She's absolutely loving it. We're loving the wheel work out there. You're loving the mud work that these guys have been doing, because it's rally stuff left, right and centre.
Oh, it is. And I mean, Barks in the TCR race, he had all 4 wheels off the air. Like, yeah. It was impressive.
The track's that dirty down the end there. It looks like a rally track.
So pure insanity when it comes to racing. Pure gold from the commentary box, I've got to say, today as we head back up and get ready for our next category, TCM. So Touring Car Masters Masters, guys. Take it away.
Matty, look at that racetrack. It's a super special stage down there at the final set of turns. There's been about 18 cars that have been off through there over the course of the last 2 days, and the lake in the middle, Richard Crowell, who's just picked himself up off the ground after that thrilling GT race.
The ski jump in the middle of that reminds me of Rally Finland.
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
Molly Taylor's jumped over that at some point in her rallying career. Oh, Nolts, welcome back to you. What an incredible day it's been. We have seen some remarkable racing finishes to get to the end, and just massive kudos to everyone for getting races and getting them to the finish as well. It's just awesome. What a show it's been. Speaking of shows, I'm going to continue just catching my breath. How about race 2 of Gulf Western Oil TCM earlier today?
Exactly, it's been a show. It started off in probably the driest conditions we've had of the day so far. This was from Ryan Hansen's perspective, the multi-spares Tirana, who was leading up until that point when Mr. 300 took the lead for a moment anyway, as cars found the limits, including Jim Policina, who was very lucky to get out of here in the Mocon McDonald's Tirana, just squeezing the throttle to get the number 7 back out onto the track. Then Adam Bressington, on his return to Touring Car Masters, got past John Bowe down here at the bottom turn into the left hand, and then it was all over for Danny Bazadzik here, nailing the car ahead, which punctured the radiator and would bring the Western General Bodyworks car back into the pits. The first of 2 spins, or the second of 2 spins for Keith Kasulki on his return, the big XB hardtop. That brought out another safety car, and then Bressington set sail for home here.
It was a really good fight, and for a moment we thought that it was all done and dusted. George Miedeke, in fact, was attacking John Bowe in his 300th Touring Car Masters race. Thought there's no way that Bresso could lose it from here. He's got 3 car lengths, but this is Sandown speed.